Hi Chris, how are you?
Good evening, Rod. Yeah, I'm well. Here we are. It's July the 22nd. It's episode 234, and it is warm. Very warm.
Not as warm as it's been. I got to say, I've noticed it's a little cooler than it's been.
All right, it's a smidge cooler than it's been, but my shed is slowly becoming an oven.
That's because you spend too long in there, man. You want to get out sometimes. Do a meeting on the outside. Touch some grass.
Yeah, that would be nice. So as soon as we are done today, that is my exact plan. I will go touch the grass.
Isn't that the point of iPads? They're portable. You can go around with them. You got good Wi-Fi. What's the issue?
True, and I have done a lot of travel in the last week where I've been on trains, I've been in different countries. I didn't join any Wi-Fi. I just cracked on and used my iPad in how it was designed. Why can't I do that with a Mac?
Because you can tether it to your unified travel router and you can still do that anyway, so I don't see the problem.
As I was sat next to my brother who couldn't join his Mac to his iPhone, which was quite amusing to watch.
Yeah, it sucks sometimes that. We're going to talk about me traveling with Linux a little bit later. There's not too much to say, but let's touch on that later. Should we fire on and do some follow-up?
Let's do the follow-up. What have we got?
So first off, in what will probably be quite a short show, to be honest, this is just an interesting article in the Register from the 21st of July, so yesterday, talking about the change in potential dominance to models. So we've been talking a lot about models today. Chris has managed to burn through all of his Claude tokens in a very short space of time. But it doesn't take me as long, and I don't pay as much as he does for my Claude tokens. But obviously there's a bit of an economy going on here, and we're going to talk a little bit more of that further down the show as well. But there was a new model released from China in the last week, possibly 10 days, called Kimi K3. And it's the first time that it's almost as competitive as sort of Fable 5 and GPT 5.6. And the interesting thing about it is it's an open weight model. So should you have a beefy enough server, you can actually run this in memory. And it's really close on your own data center rather than relying on someone else to do it. Now, it's super beefy, but I think that's really interesting that the Chinese are open sourcing these things. And you can get on and you can do that yourself.
That's quite cool. I would love to host my own environment right now because I have been through the tokens, as you've just said. But I'd probably need a crazy big machine to do it, which I don't have, obviously. But no, I think you're right. I think the balance of power, I don't know if it's shifted, but it feels like it's become a lot more equalized, I guess, or normalized between, well, not just America and China, but just generally. It feels like the maturity level is starting to standardize. Interesting doing it. I do like that they've called it Moonshot, like the company's called Moonshot, and it's their Kimi K3 model. So I think that's quite a cool name.
Well, DeepSeek did this before, obviously, and they have an open weight model that you can download and run on your machine. And I've used a few of these self-hosted models for things like OMLX or LM Studio or Olama or things like that. And they can do some basic things quite well. Even on a fairly modest Mac. I mean, my laptop's only got 24 gigs of RAM, and in it's not the fastest thing. I mean, you definitely need to run the smaller models, but it's capable of doing interesting things. It can do some code generation. It can design you some things. It's not as fast as a Claude or a ChatGPT or a Google Gemini, but they're not incompetent. And I think if the next phase of this is optimization to run on your own machines, then the Chinese are way ahead of what's going on from models in the West.
Yeah, no, it's going to be. I think the next year is going to be quite interesting. There was talk, I think just while I was away, of stock, the stocks crashing a little bit in America for AI companies. But I think the next year is going to be super interesting because I'm certainly feeling it just in my bubble. People are getting very comfortable with AI now. It's certainly, it's like Google was probably not quite 30 years ago, but 20-something years ago, where it's becoming more mainstream. People get really comfortable with it. More people are signing up for it. It's just very interesting to see. And I think the next year, hopefully the bubble's not going to burst because that could be bad, but hopefully we'll get more of an even keel, I think.
Well, I mean, it's going to burst, I think, at some point. There's too many companies with too much money and too much circular financing going on.
And too much debt.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in a minute. But there's stuff going on, and the problem is all stock markets are flat. The UK's been flat, the Nikkei's been flat, and then you look at the only places growth is in the what do you call it, Fortune 500, certainly the tech stocks, and they're all to do with AI. And if there is a burst, then we're in recession pretty much, apart from what's going on with these particular stocks. So it's going to be interesting times ahead.
Yeah, I think so. I hope it standardised, like the tech world standardised for a long period of time. Hopefully we can see a little bit of that.
Anyway, moving on. Last week, or possibly the week before, we talked about a vulnerability in Hide My Mail. This was a hacker came out and said they've been talking about this for ages, and here's how you get around it. Well, apparently it's been patched. So this is an iCloud Plus that's got a Hide My Mail feature. So there's a vulnerability that was reported in early July, as we talked about, and then revealed that Apple had been aware of the issue for at least a year. Apparently, a software patch from July the 3rd, I guess that's 26.5. Are we up to now? I've lost track on that side.
I think this is all remote.
It's one of those, they just did it behind the scenes.
I'm not sure it was an iOS thing, but more of it was something to do with if you replied, I think, to the email. If you replied to the hidden email address, you could then find out the real email address. It seemed a bit of a stupid gap for them to have not tested for, if I'm being honest, the way I read it. But no, it's all been fixed, which is good, but apparently it took them 12 months to get there, which isn't fantastic.
Yeah, that's rubbish. You think one of those little AI models I've got could help them out with that?
Yeah, it's especially for a company, and I think it does say in the article, that prides themselves on security. For them to not have dealt with this, A, quicker, but B, to have had it in the first place, not a great look.
Not a great look. What is a great look is the UK is becoming quietly a leader in net zero, and we don't talk about it very much. We're not far behind Europe in this, and America's even further behind us. But when you look at more than 50%, 60% of UK energy generation being produced by wind, solar, and wave power, hydropower, this is quite a thing. And the thing that's going to help this, and we talked about it on the podcast before, was this revolution in balcony solar, which is a European thing because most people rent their houses. Most rented houses are flats. Flats have balconies. You stick your solar panels on the outside and you can generate little micro solar generation things from balcony. What this means for the UK is plug-in solar, basically. So if you've got a couple of solar panels and you've got a micro inverter, you can convert get this the right way around, the DC power from a solar panel into AC power for your house. You can just plug it in with a 3-pin socket, and without doing very much more than spending 300 quid and having that, you can save yourself about a third of your electricity bill on a decently sunny day.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? I've got my eye on some of these because I could easily hang one of those off my shed, south-facing. You know, it would be quite easy to do. Got a nice flat roof where you could probably wedge some of these on. So I've got my eye on some of these. I've already got some solar panels, but I am not against a few more.
No, I think it's probably quite a good thing. And there's a few companies popped up around. One called EcoFlow I've got my eye on, who will sell you an inverter and a couple of solar panels to the tune of about 600 watts for just over 300 quid. And you can obviously mix and match a bit more with some of the other things. I'm hoping I'll be in a position within 6 months or so that I'll be able to try some of this stuff out myself. I mean, I could technically try balcony solar, but I think there'll be issues for parts of the UK that live in flats, or you're a leaseholder, or it's not freehold or something like that. So, but I think this stuff is super interesting, and particularly if you can pair it with some sort of battery. So the microinverter, there's obviously no storage on. If you're out in the day, then a lot of that power may be going to waste. But it's still, if you've got your Xbox on standby, you've got a fridge running, you've got stuff like that, it's going to take the edge off that kind of thing. So the prediction is, even on a day, a third off your power bill, that's not bad.
Yeah, and I think even if you don't have a battery, but if you're working from home, for example, this could be huge just to take the edge off. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
For about 1,600 quid, you can get a battery set up, so you can get a couple of panels and an EcoFlow Stream Plus or Ultra, whichever is the one that takes it. And that means you could actually do a little bit of this, and you would have a little bit of disaster planning. So, again, it's not 300 quid, but it's also not the 10, 15, 20 grand it used to cost to put solar panels on the side of your house. So I think this stuff is really interesting.
Yeah, no, completely agreed.
So that is good news. And then in bad news, because we did hint at this a minute ago, it's not just the circular financing that's going on amongst the AI companies that we may need to be worried about. It's the lack of declarations of debt that they may also be doing. This is a story in Nikkei Asia about 5 of the US tech giants' hidden debts, which is, and it's worth reading this number out. You become used to very large numbers, and most of the AI companies, we're talking billions, but this is a 1.65 trillion of opaque AI funding for the way that they're doing this stuff. And what this boils down to is they're not declaring until the data center actually goes live, you don't actually need to declare it as a debt, is what this boils down to. So you've not only got NVIDIA selling OpenAI GPUs in order that they use NVIDIA GPUs, it's all very circular in how you move things around. But you've also got this kind of thing going with the actual production of data centers and where it's all going to go. This feels like a lot of money you've said some people are buying accounts, but I suspect the vast majority of people aren't buying monthly accounts to make use of tokens and things like that. There's a lot of money goes into this. It's not zero cost for them to run the data centers. They run at a loss and have for a long time. And then you've got stuff like this as well.
I think there's a couple of things here. One, agree with you. Most people probably are using the freebie one. Two, this is all accounting practice, isn't it? They're just, like you say, hiding all this cost in the way they account for it, which doesn't sound right, does it? And maybe it does go back to the bubble bursting. It's definitely a concern, isn't it? Because they can't keep going on like this. You've got these really expensive systems in place that people aren't paying for. They're all using the freebies, and yet it costs so much money to run. I'm amazed that we haven't started seeing any efficiencies come, because if they can bottle this tech and make it more efficient, it would solve a lot of problems right now. And I'm amazed we've not got AI working on that above everything else.
The problem is, what's the end game for this? I listened to a really interesting podcast this week on the Luddites. And the Luddites, for those who are not aware of their history, are reputed to be people in Nottingham when weaving looms and automated weaving technology started to come in the sort of 1800s. Some people who thought they were going to lose their job strategically broke some machines. It wasn't just like a mass smashing of equipment. They particularly targeted some machines. They were the followers of Ludd, who was not a real person, but as a consequence, people who were breaking technology got saddled with the name Luddite. And it seems on history's balance that this was slightly unfair. There was other things going on at the same time, one of which was a change in fashion. In the UK, we switched from wearing stockings and sort of trews to actually wearing trousers and socks. So it required a different kind of manufacturing as well. So the sort of change in technology got bandied about with a change in fashion, and there was all sorts of slightly more mysterious things than that. But it's a fascinating listen to look at. And one of the things with changes of technology is the people who suffer are the working man. And this is where I'm going with all this, is that AI has promises to put lots of people out of business. They won't have jobs anymore if you're a data analyst or you're in some job that can be changed with automation or something like that, or you write papers for a living. A lot of these relate to me. Then maybe this is a problem for you because the AI can potentially do it. However, those companies that have gone all in have reported losses. Things go wrong. They get picked up on AI slop. There's all sorts of issues around this. And I think there's a certain amount of pushback on how the quality of these things. People, yes, they accept it. I think for some industries, coding being one, where you've got a very dedicated thing that you want to do, it's a great piece of technology. But actually getting rid of people and replacing it with this is not a zero-cost thing for an employer. Yeah, you stop paying a minimum wage or even middling wage worker somewhere between 18 and, I don't know, £50,000 a year. But how much is that going to cost you in tokens?
Yeah, no, I agree with you here. I think, especially at the moment, the AI is looking so expensive and it feels like it's only going to go one way. But actually, if they could make it more efficient, is it going to come back the other way? And I wrestle with it a little bit. I think you do too, in that we've both had jobs where this could replace parts of our jobs. So we feel the pain as well. I've been using it for programming, for personal fun, and I've got a lot of enjoyment out of it. But I'd be worried if I was a programmer right now, as you've said about writing papers. You can see it now. If you get good at prompting it and you understand it, you can get it to generate some really interesting stuff.
It's a massive problem for those in education, because somebody who's really good at making use of the prompts, they're quite good at hiding what they've produced. And the worry is you haven't learned anything doing that. As an educator as well as a researcher, you want people to know enough, at least, to know what's wrong. And I'm not entirely convinced that that's the case. So, yeah, I think this is a debate we're going to continue to have on this podcast and societally. But it's super interesting that underpinning all this is a lot of very creative financing.
Yeah, it's creative financing at its finest, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Something that's not so fine is that the phone manufacturer OnePlus, it looks like they're going to leave both Europe and the United States. I think this is a real shame. OnePlus started as a stripped-down version of Android. They made high-quality handsets with a sort of fairly opinionated Android OS that was sort of close to what they wanted. They were, I think, possibly even before Apple, they had a silent button on their phone, which they've since got rid of. They made a few compromises around cameras and things like that, but always well-regarded handsets, a subdivision of the Chinese company Oppo. I think it's really a shame that they're pulling out of these markets because we're losing interesting phones.
Yeah, I was really surprised to read this because I was like, aren't these quite popular phones? Do you know what I mean? I was quite surprised. And they're just really going to serve the Chinese market now, which I guess if it's big enough for them and they don't need the complexity of other markets, I can kind of see it. But I was really surprised because even to the untrained eye on me, I've seen a lot of them, and they're good designs. They look great. So, yeah, proper surprised on this one.
Yeah, it's not a great sign. I mean, I do wonder if it's market pressures to a certain extent as well. The American market, and to some extent the European and UK market, we buy Samsungs, we buy Pixels, and we buy iPhones. And it's probably a smaller cut of the market, and OnePlus was probably the market leader in that sort of smaller cut of the market. But with the pressure of RAM shortages, manufacturing costs and all the rest of it, presumably if they go all in on Chinese manufacturing, they can fit Chinese RAM and all these components that aren't challenging to some markets out there. And maybe it's just easier for them at that point. They can miss a lot of these manufacturing hikes.
And is it a big enough addressable market? I'm guessing it is. So there's a lot of people there. So maybe it does make sense if you. I'm sure they've spreadsheeted this. If they've got a spreadsheet that says just do China and cut all the other complications out. You can see it now, right?
Well, there's China, there's India, there's South America, there's other markets that are probably more profitable. And with Europe, and particularly pushing back on a lot of the AI stuff, there's been news this week about them wanting Google to open up access to all their APIs related to Gemini on their phones. I mean, Apple notably hasn't released its new version of Siri in the EU, and there seems to be no progress in that. John Gruber's going mad about that. If you've been following Daring Fireball, he's lost the plot about how insane the EU is to be stopping all these changes in technology going forward. I think it's a really uncertain market at the moment.
I would concur with you. And if it's only a small percentage of what you do, do you need that? So I can see why they've done it.
News?
Let's do the news.
So back to AI, because there is no escape. It is the product that keeps giving in a dearth of interesting tech releases. Although I think the Samsung Unwrapped event has just happened, and they've got some new smartphones out as well, but we've left that a bit late to comment on.
Samsung have an event?
Samsung have an event. They released their new generation of S27s, or I think it's actually their foldable events. So it's their Flip and Zoom or whatever they're called. Their foldable phones are called at the moment. Anyway, we'll look at that next week. This is the story. The OpenAI was actually the source of a denial of service attack against Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is the area on the internet where you go to find models, what models are hot, what their benchmarks are, what their quantizations are, what they'll run on, all that kind of stuff. And OpenAI was an operator of autonomous agents that attacked all of Hugging Face last week after a research project escaped a sandbox by finding and exploiting a zero-day flaw. Well, that's great and very reassuring, isn't it? That one of the best known model manufacturers is actually running denial of service attacks against websites.
It's not a good look, is it? And I think we've covered Hugging Face before. I did go and have a look at it, and I was like, I think it's for the kids. I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, not good. So it used a zero-day flaw, and then it used another zero-day flaw to launch the attack. It was like, okay, fair, it's clever, but it's not a great look, is it, for OpenAI?
No, but this is our worry, isn't it? That these more advanced models, and we talked about Anthropic holding back on their Mythos series of models, that you'd have this agentic attacker thing going on. So you set up your agent on your server farm or your computer, whatever it is, you ask the agent to go out there and do it, and it goes and does exactly what you asked for, which is attack this website, get the credentials, and then exploit it. And then that's I mean, Hugging Face is a website that hosts models, so that's one. It's obviously a well-known one if you're a purveyor of AI-based machinery. But what if it's the Pentagon, MI6, UK government, Brazilian government? Where does this end when you've got these kinds of agents autonomously able to go out and continuously seek flaws? It does make me worry.
I'm with you on this. Like, it is a concern, right? It's a big concern. I'm not comfortable with it. You'd have thought they'd have better controls in place to not let this kind of thing happen, but clearly OpenAI in this scenario, it let it happen, and now they've got to apologise for it.
I mean, I like this reference. So OpenAI says it runs these tests in a highly isolated environment with network access constrained to the ability to install packages through an internally hosted third-party software that acts as proxy and cache for package restraints. This is the registrar's comment. The company's models decided not to be bound by these constraints. Yeah, here we go. Do you want Skynet? That's how you get Skynet.
It does feel a bit Skynet-esque, doesn't it? I kind of want to go back and rewatch Terminator 2.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit later than the predicted date, but it's feeling a bit like it, isn't it?
James Cameron might have got it right in the early 90s.
Yeah, but he's just started doing Smurfs since, hasn't he? So
I did actually see somebody on the plane watch that the other week, and I was like, "Oh right, somebody's actually watching Avatar."
it's getting pushed pretty hard by Disney Plus. I know that.
Or maybe that's it. I don't have it at the moment.
I think we talked about it in one of the media episodes. I watched the second one not that long ago. This is the third one, Fire and Ash, I think it's called. It's come out. Just shows. I know all movies are CGI these days, and good CGI is just hidden CGI. I don't want to watch Smurfs though.
I can barely remember the first one, to be honest with you.
It was all right. It was just a mashup of Alien and Pocahontas and maybe a bit of Titanic in there too.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't think I'd rather spend the time on something else. I think.
Fair enough. Somebody else would rather spend the time on something else is Airbus. Airbus is obviously possibly the biggest manufacturer of passenger jets at this point, but certainly they're neck and neck with Boeing and have been for quite a while. Amazing success story for Europe. Lots of European nations deciding to go toe-to-toe with Boeing and build passenger jets that are reliable, well regarded, and in the last couple of years particularly, I think they've been very much in people's minds as being, if you got a choice of what jet you'd want to fly on, I think you'd pick an Airbus rather than a Boeing.
Yeah, I don't know enough about planes. I did like this article though, because they managed to use as many airplane puns as they possibly could get in. Like, you've got runway, you've got pushing the throttles forwards, repatriation, and various other bits. I thought it was quite cool. But you know what? Why wouldn't you? If you're a European business, why are you going to be hosting your data in America?
I mean, we didn't say that. I was kind of building up to what the article was about,
Sorry.
but that's all right. So this is the story. We've been talking about European sovereignty and, people getting nervous about the United States holding their data. If you're a large company with lots of corporate secrets, or you do your management or planning or presumably your aeronautical design, all that kind of stuff with them, you'd be a bit concerned about Amazon Web Services or other United States companies putting all your data in those clouds. And this is the news that Airbus are looking to move some of their services, at least, to a French cloud provider called Scaleway. And I'm with you. I think this is kind of a no-brainer for them.
What got me though is they've got 900 applications. That's a lot of applications. Like, to look after. We've just been talking about AI finding vulnerabilities. If you're running 900 applications, you've got to assume there's going to be some vulnerabilities inside some of them. So that seems a lot to me. But they're going to start by moving just 70.
Yeah. So, I mean, America's on their list. They're saying, I quite like the fact they called Donald Trump Donnie the data burglar. That amused me no end as sort of a thing with this in the article. So the details of the announcement are resting with the critical list including their ERP, CRM and manufacturing systems that they're going to move forward. That's pretty important stuff if you're an airline manufacturer.
Yeah, they're moving it. They're not like holding back anything, are they?
No, I mean, as they go on to say in the article, the supply chain is still something they need to look at, because some of those people will absolutely be using Microsoft products or Azure or Amazon Web Services or one of the other things. But this is kind of I was going to say the crows coming home to roost. It's the chickens that come home to roost, isn't it? You'd know more about chickens than me. But putting these things under direct threat, which is what the European Union and the United Kingdom and all other countries that aren't America, Canada included, are seeing, is that they're not a safe partner for these kinds of things anymore. And if you're an airline manufacturer whose major rival is based in the United States, why would you trust American companies with that data?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It does make sense. I think we're going to see more of this, aren't we? We've talked about it before, of people bringing their data closer to where they're based. The internationalization of systems is somewhat regressing slightly.
Yeah. The next one's not a very long news story, but we just thought we'd mention it. There is apparently rumours afoot that Apple is going to release a new upgrade program. I think we lost our upgrade program quite a while ago in the United Kingdom. It's got to be getting on for 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I have done it before. I can't remember when it went away, but it did go away at some point. But yeah, it's not a shock, this, is it, given the current cost of absolutely everything? Maybe they want to help people finance it so they keep their sales going.
Yeah, so this is due to launch on July 28th, so maybe we'll be talking about this on, next week, come next week's podcast, if we manage to do that. Phil, and that will be the week after. And it will just change upgrade pricing. So you'll have a 24-month lease, presumably with zero finance or something like that, on iPhones, Apple Watches, and there'll be 36-month leases for iPads and Macs. The rumour that this may not be all that is apparently it won't apply to base models, so you won't be able to buy the very cheapest phones, Macs, whatever, with this program. They want you to step up to the next level in order to get the money worth out of it.
They want you to get some more debt, because why wouldn't they? I don't like it when they do that. I kind of get why they're doing it, but I don't like it. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. But I try not to finance, but given the Fold's about to come out, you can see why they're setting this up. Now's probably quite a good time to test something. Most people are buying phones now, so maybe it's a good time just to get this out there and test it.
I mean, we talked about this before. My personal feeling is there'll be a lot of people sticking with their phones this year.
Yeah, do you know what? As much, you were just talking about the Samsung Fold coming out, and I went and had a quick look at it, and I was like, as much as I would like the idea of it, I'm not sure I fancy spending that sort of money on a phone.
Particularly given, I mean, the phones aren't as fragile as they used to be, but folding phones are at that end of the market compared to what we're used to. And if you get your shiny new iPhone Fold, Samsung Fold, whatever it is, you don't really want to be hiding it in a big case. You don't want to be treating it carefully. You want to use it like your phone.
No, I agree with you. I think I agree that you don't want to put it in a case. I agree. I think people are probably going to hold off a little bit because they're not going to be cheaper, and phones have already been getting scarily expensive. Apple are going to have to do something pretty compelling to make you want to upgrade this year, I think.
Yeah, I know you've been in the habit of not wearing cases on your phones, so I've gone back to one. I bought a super cheap one. I know. There is the orange iPhone again. There's my blue one. Look at us. We've both got iPhone 17s. I'm quite happy with blue still.
I don't know if you can see it, but I'm holding my phone up to the camera and there is a scuff on the corner.
Well, that's not good.
I think my children are more upset than I am because they know they're going to get it one day.
Moving on, someone else that might get it one day is Windows users, and what they're going to be getting is if they buy a nice shiny new LG monitor, it in the background installs LG's own app installer, which gives you like a nice pathway to having all sorts of spamware installed on your computer. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Did you get a chance to read this article?
I had a look at it, and I thought I could see this something that would happen, I don't know, 10 years ago. It was like, wouldn't it be really great if you buy this new monitor and you plug it in and it just downloads what you need? And you can see the logic behind it. But I'm surprised in 2026 it's something that's happening because I thought we were trying to kill all auto-run things and it being installed without the user explicitly saying it because bad things could happen.
So this LG monitor app installer then, which can just be triggered if you've accepted to be part of the Microsoft App Store and all the rest of it, unplugging it in will potentially serve you ads for things like McAfee antivirus. It knows things about what you're browsing, what you're looking at. It's really not a good app, actually. That it's almost a bit spyware-y.
I don't like the sound of this, and one of these people, I don't like lots of stuff running. I try and have the minimal amount, especially on my PC, because I just don't want this cruft slowing me down. This would really annoy me. This whole setup would really annoy me.
So the statement is, LG technically possesses permission to use all system resources as well as collect geolocation, device data, online activity, contacts, user credentials, transactions, and more. Well, that's just fabulous.
Just fabulous. Yeah, it's all bad, isn't it? Like, why do you need all that stuff? I'm sorry.
Just to plug it in your monitor.
Yeah, I think this is awful.
And I don't know who's worse here. Is it LG for doing it or Microsoft for allowing it?
I think both. Like, just because it's there doesn't mean you should use it. Like, Microsoft, you need to sort this out. This is stupid. But LG, what are you doing? You're a good brand. Don't do it. I've bought a lot of LG stuff. Why are you doing this?
My last couple of TVs have been LGs, and I'm a big fan. But when you see what they're doing in the TV space, particularly around advertising and watching what you're watching and all that kind of stuff, all the TV companies are bad. The reason TCL will sell you a TV for next to nothing is because they're watching what you're watching.
Because they're harvesting all your data. Well, one of us, and probably both of us, to disable the Wi-Fi and the network on their telly, and I don't use any of it, to be honest. On all 4 tellies, they're completely off the network, and I just use my Apple TV box.
I do too. However, I will occasionally go and try and get the old software update, and I think it doesn't really matter at that point. It's just going to push out all whatever it's got cached on me.
Oh, I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, occasionally I will go get a software update.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
do you know what? I don't think I really need the software update because I never know where anything is. I never use any of the software. They just turn on, go to HDMI inputs.
Yeah, well, me too. So bad LG, bad Microsoft. Stop it. Don't allow that kind of stuff.
Agreed.
Someone else that shouldn't allow that kind of stuff is Apple, and they're charging more for an Apple One subscription. I think this is just in the United States because we already had our prices raised about 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. I can't quite remember when, but I'm a little concerned about this and this is part of my reason for sorting out some apps to bring your own content so that I can reverse my way out of this dilemma I've got myself into where everything's just getting more expensive. And it is a problem, right?
Yep. So an individual music plan goes from $10.99 a month to $11.99 a month.
So it's about a 10% increase.
Yep. A family goes from $16.99 to $19.99. Student from $5.99 to $16.99. Apple One accounts, an individual is unchanged at $19.95. A family account has gone from $25.95 to $27.95. And a Premier account, which is what I think I've got, goes from $37.95 to $39.95.
I've got the Premier account as well because I think that's the one where you get the extra 2 terabytes, which is what I need. So yeah. I am slowly working my way out of some of this, but I'm a year or more away from doing it because my family use Apple Music and the photos.
I feel that I'm 43 quid a month a Premier account in pounds in the UK. It's about that, isn't it? I'll let you go and look at that and verify it. I should probably look before the show started, but I feel like it's over 40 quid. This is interesting that when I think about it, and we've talked about this repeatedly on the podcast, what I use my Apple account for is a little bit of music streaming, Apple TV, and the storage. I've more or less moved off the photographs because I use Image, which is a self-hosted Docker container with a photo sharing thing on that I just synchronize all my photos to. And the really nice thing about it was I pulled all the old stuff out of Google, all the old stuff out of my Apple accounts, and it's all in one place now. So I don't need it for that anymore. And you can share it as well amongst your family.
Yeah, this is probably something I'm going to have to tackle at some point. It's probably the single biggest thing I need Apple for right now is photos for me and my family and some of the extended family because they're in my family account, which I thought was a good idea at the time, but kind of regretting that. But basically, if you're talking, say, £40 a month, that's what, £480 a year in the UK. That's quite a lot. And it's not going to get cheaper, is it?
And it's Disney, and it's Apple, and it's Amazon, and it's whoever else you subscribe to as well for things that aren't actually yours. As we've talked about before, Apple one day wakes up and decides that they don't like the fact that you've uploaded this file into your iCloud account. They'll just take it off you.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. So, I think this is not a great sign. It's not like the company is doing badly in the market at the moment. I don't really think they need to be doing this. And it's funny when I see these discussions come up on Reddit and places like that, you get a lot of people defending Apple going, well, their job isn't to be good to the consumer. It's the responsibility to return profits for the shareholders. And I just feel like that's capitalism gone mad because ultimately, if you drive your customers away, then the shareholders are going to suffer too.
Premier here in the UK is £36.95, and you have to get that one if you want News Plus and Fitness Plus. So actually I could drop down to the family. Oh no, the family one only comes with 200 gig. You need the Premier one to get 2 terabytes.
Yeah, so they've got you.
They have got me. So I need to work out how much 2 terabytes is, and can I get it if I go on the family account? Is there a saving to be had in there?
It's interesting times.
It's expensive times is what it is.
It really is. Car corner?
Let's do the car corner.
So there's a story here for me, and there's a story I'm going to let you talk about just because I thought it was interesting. I found it for you, Chris, but I knew it was right up your alley. So the first story for me is I just thought this was the most amazing attack surface that I had never even considered. So this is a story in the SailFlow about how most CCS2 chargers, which is the charging standard in Europe and not in North America, but the CCS standard is what you'll find in Europe, the UK, and everywhere else except America because of their own weird North American charging standard. What this boils down to is if you can get a little bit of hardware together for the cost of about $150, $200, you can actually hack into some particular types of charge port and have complete access to the charging provider's network. I just think this is incredible.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised by this because I used to have a car charger. Well, I still have a car charger. I don't use it a huge amount, but you can upgrade all the firmware in it. It's on their network. I'm not surprised that there is mechanisms to get in there and exploit this. And again, they're all out there in the wild. They've probably shipped unpatched, and you can see here that you're saying that the username and password is root, which isn't great. But then what do you do? How do you put something on it that you can log into if you have to fix it, I guess, with an engineer, and how do they support them? But companies just aren't built for this, are they? So they just do the easiest thing, which is
but you and I are IT professionals, and we wouldn't deploy a piece of a computer out into the wild with root.
Agreed. No, you'd use something like Microsoft Labs where you have random passwords and they cycle them in. They're all stored centrally. This is madness. I agree, but I am not surprised.
The technology to encrypt an SSH connection from a Linux machine has been around since at least 1988, 1989.
Yeah, I would say something like that.
Certainly since the 90s, when you and I, the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, since you and I went to university, that this, hardening an SSH connection is not a hard thing to do. Keep your keys on one side and have the public key on the other, so only those machines that have got access to the keys can connect to it. Simples.
Yep, no, I'm with you. This is maddening. Like I say, I'm surprised I'm not surprised, if that makes sense. I'm not surprised somebody's tried to hack your car charger. Probably not surprised they've used root as the username password. It's mental.
But what this means is they've created this EV simulator, which you then connect to the charging thing. And what that could let you do is disable cooling on the charger, manipulate the power it's delivering, so let you get the charging for free, falsify the data, so you're sort of thieving that energy out of them, coordinate fraud onto the grid. So these things are all tend to have big fat pipes back to the grid somewhere. So you could coordinate loads by attacking lots of these things at the same time and actually cause instability to your national infrastructure and, of course, infect people's EVs. So what seems like a fairly trivial thing, maybe I'll get some cheap energy, the repercussions for that could be really quite serious.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. If somebody's trying to, like you say, get some cheap energy, they could start a fire, an explosion. It could be very bad. So I'm with you on this.
Yep. Anyway, just a fascinating and a very well-written article as well, actually, that I thoroughly enjoyed. So I recommend listeners and viewers check that out.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's cool. I like the diagram too.
Chris went to Spa to watch some cars go around the track at speed. Do you want to tell us about this article?
So I did. I went to the F1 in Belgium last weekend with my brother. And you know what? We could have done anything. It was just great to go and do something different. And we went abroad and we had a great time. And what a lovely bunch of people we met. And there was a lot of people there. But what they're now talking about is, and there's been a bit of controversy this year with all of it, because you've got people like Max Verstappen basically going, the new cars, and it's a new era for the Formula One, all new engines, and they're using like battery power, and basically at certain points on the lap you can just push a button and go faster, and Max Verstappen's been likening it to playing a video game and you just push the button, you overtake them. I didn't do anything clever. And so you had one of the key drivers' issues was second in the championship. George Russell was going up a big hill, had no power because they can't work out what's wrong with his car. He might have then had a prang with Lewis Hamilton on the first lap. So he spent all weekend working up to this moment and he did half a lap of racing. Could you imagine how frustrated you'd be? But they're obviously linking a lot of it back to, all the computer wizardry, because it's not just an engine in a car anymore. There's all this wizardry in there that they're doing to make the tyres last longer, keep the engines cool, give them the power when they need it, crank it up when they need it, but not too much, and all of that. And they're using AI then to work it all out and to smooth it. So the races are becoming less like a racer, I think, is basically what you end up taking away from this, and it's lost a bit of its purity. I still really like F1, but I like all kind of car racing, I think. So yeah, a little bit frustrating, I think, is where George has got to. He wouldn't talk to anybody when he came off. He didn't wave at the crowd. He was nearly in tears, I think, because he's literally his whole weekend build-up lasted, like I say, half a lap, which is about a minute.
Yeah, but I have less sympathy for that because that's racing. If you stack the car going into the first corner, it doesn't matter whether it be the algorithm that's powering the engine. It's
possibly worse when it's your old teammate that stacked your car for you.
Sure, but that's racing, and the MotoGP is exactly the same. If you overcook the first corner and you get taken out by somebody else, that's such as life. That's racing. Motorsport is not straightforward, and things go wrong. The thing that got me about this article is the amount of power that seemed to be taken completely out of the driver's hands. It's going to make it less interesting for the fans. You understand the technical changes that they want to make it more efficient or whatever it is that they're doing, but it doesn't seem like they're making it more exciting. Reading this article, it just feels like they're shifting the balance away to the computer being more in control of what's going on rather than the drivers themselves. And motorsport's quite pure to me. I mean, obviously there's electronics involved. They get faster every year, even though I presume the cars are the same as the bikes. They tend to like going down on engine sizes, and all the other things become more important. And the electronics are more efficient, and to keep the tires on the track, blah 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 blah. But this seems like a step too far, where you are taking it almost entirely out of the driver's hands at some point, and that doesn't make for exciting racing.
No, I'd agree with you. I think, and it's getting further away from where it started. The purity of it all. So I don't disagree. I still enjoyed myself, and I do like F1. I don't know why. I can't explain why I enjoy it, but it is getting more and more about, or more and more about the car, the computer, the tech than it is about the driver and the engine.
And that's true. This is an interesting article, but just again, speaking about motorbikes for a minute, we've had the same thing in the top class of MotoGP, where you get all these devices that lower the bike. So when you're on a straight, there's ride height devices that actually drop the whole bike down quite a lot, so you're more aerodynamic, it sticks to the track more, and then they're meant to release when you come into a corner, because the GPS knows where the bike is in the corner. So when you come to a corner, you've got more suspension travel as you hit the corner. Bikes obviously lean over to go around corners. You need that, and we saw somebody almost did lose a race because the ride height device stuck on because the computer decided they were in a different part of the track. So the same thing is happening in the sport I liked it.
Yeah, it's not good, is it?
The thing I always liked about racing is it's the man or woman in control of the machine that can make a difference. All the manufacturers are different, but they're standardized to such an extent that it's the person behind the wheel or sitting on the bike that can actually... You see somebody at work when you watch motorsport, and I don't think you see that anymore.
No, I wouldn't disagree with that statement. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a tough job, and you still need all the fitness and everything, but it is very different to how it used to be.
Yeah, they get paid pretty well for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Media?
Go on then.
So I've only managed to watch one thing this week. I noticed you didn't add anything, so you've watched nothing this week.
No, I haven't really. I mean, the telly's been on, but I've not really watched anything. I was away, so, I was away for 4.5 days, so...
I haven't watched much either. But one thing I did see is apparently there's a RoboCop TV show coming. Now, I love RoboCop. It's one of my favourite films from the 80s. And of the 3 films Paul Verhoeven made in those, which was, let me try and get this right, Starship Troopers, RoboCop, and I want to say Total Recall. All 3 of them are terrific, but RoboCop may be my favourite in amongst those.
Yeah, I feel like I should go back and rewatch this because I've not seen RoboCop in a long, long time. And I feel it might be worth a watch.
It's totally great, and it's because they couldn't get the rights for Dredd to do it, because RoboCop is basically Judge Dredd. Anyway, that might be why I like it, but no, it's a hyper-violent, over-the-top sort of depiction of what might become of the United States when you let your AIs and automation take over. So maybe there's a salient tale there for us all as well. Anyway. I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm going to watch out for this. If they can sort of capture the spirit of that sort of hyper-violence and satire that was directly aimed at media and capitalism and consumption, they'll be doing quite well.
Yeah, I think that's the key is, can they do it? Can they do it and keep what we enjoyed about the first one, but bring it up to date? And that's tough to do that well. So I'm interested to see where this goes.
They've got an executive producer that co-wrote the original RoboCop film, so that's something. I would point out that RoboCops 2 and 3 were dreadful, and I think there was a kids' TV cartoon which broke my mind slightly that they'd allow that to happen. But the 80s and 90s were a different time. Let's see where this goes. There was a half decent game that came out last year as well. It was available on the PlayStation. Yeah, so colour me intrigued.
Yeah, agreed. I'm with you on this.
I managed to watch a new TV show, or at least 3 episodes of a new TV show. Anyway, have you heard of The Americans?
I've heard of it. I can picture the poster art. That's the one. Never seen it. It used to be on Amazon. I don't know what it's on now.
It's on Disney now.
Oh, okay.
And I was a bit like, Americans. I don't know what that's about. But it's basically set in the 80s, and it's 2 KGB spies implanted inside of America.
Okay, that's quite cool.
While all the stuff is going on, like the Star Wars program and Reagan, refusing to take part in disarmament talks and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really interesting point in history. The 2 leads are really, really good in it. And I think one of the reasons I started watching it is because of Widow's Bay. Matthew Rhys, the Welsh actor, was so good in Widow's Bay that I wondered what else he'd been in. So I fired up The Americans, and it's pretty good. I got to say, I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
They've done 6 seasons, so it can't be bad.
No, and it's pretty high quality. And if you look at the tomatometer here, we've got 96% from critics and 94% from the audience. Really solid stuff. Thoroughly enjoying.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I apologise. I don't know where I'm at. And I'm away all next week as well, so I'm probably going to watch even less.
Not good enough, Chris.
Agreed.
We haven't got any games, though. That shows I actually have been busy.
Yeah, I haven't played anything. I haven't even gone back to play more First Light that I bought of James Bond. A mate of mine's played it and got further than I have. But there you go.
That's probably not a surprise, though, is it?
No, it's not a surprise.
Main show?
Yeah, got him.
So this will be a very short main show, but it's more of a what if. I saw this article earlier in the week on Engadget, not Engadget, Ars Technica, sorry, about what happens when your vehicle outlives its cloud. And it kind of touches on a thing we've been talking about for a fair bit on the podcast, which is what happens when the manufacturer gets bored. And we've really talked about this in terms of Sony taking away movies you bought on the PlayStation Store, or Steam deciding they're going to revoke some keys for a game you downloaded. What is actually yours anymore? But I don't think we've taken this to its logical conclusion, which is what happens to your car when they decide that the services that underpin that aren't something they want to support anymore.
Yeah, it's a bit of a concern, isn't it? Because obviously if you bought a car from the 80s, there's no connectivity or tech in there, it'll be fine. You can probably replace the stereo. But then if you buy a car from the 2010s, it's got some tech, potentially some connected tech, whether you want to get firmware updates or mapping or this and that. And how far did they go with it? It is quite interesting, isn't it? Actually, are you ever going to get classic cars like we have now, where you can buy them and keep them going? Are you going to end up in a scenario where actually you can't keep your BMW iDrive going because none of it works anymore, and actually half the car's pointless? So it is quite an interesting thought, kind of linking back to what we were talking about with Apple, how we all rent everything and the costs are exponentially going up. And we're going to live in a world where we're just living day by day because we have to rent everything. Yeah, it's a bit of a concern. And I'm somebody that's gone back and bought 2 old cars, and you're in a similar boat where we've gone the polar opposite way and having less connected tech. And I don't think I want to go back to more connected tech. I don't think I need it. But it is the thing, because you can just see car companies now going, well, there's no point keeping that. We might as well get rid of it. There's like 50 cars on the road that use that stuff from 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole bunch of stuff here, isn't it? There's the basics, which would be ignoring that your car is really a computer. It was obviously the manufacturer's interest when you've got, things like they say in the article here, GM's OnStar, which was if you crash the car, it will phone the ambulance for you or get a fire brigade out or exactly locate where you were or you were a problem, that somebody was attacking you. And that kind of stuff sort of passes the sniff test for being a reasonable use of technology. That if you're in a position where you can't phone to say you've been in an accident, then you kind of want a little bit of support for that. But then the next step is, okay, so now we've got a SIM card in the car. Now we've got a SIM card in the car, we're going to give you mapping, we're going to give you the ability to connect to it, maybe de-ice the car or warm it up before you get in it or cool it down before you get there, wind your windows down, silence your alarm, things like that. Oh, and while we're at it, we're Tesla now, and the car is basically a computer. Let's not go through the whole EV charging hacking thing that we've been through before, but now we can update it. So we don't need to get your car back into the garage to carry out major software updates to it. We can actually do that remotely. But if that goes away, if your car requires a web server, and I vividly remember we talked about this in the podcast, some web service went down and a load of Tesla owners couldn't unlock their cars. Do you remember this?
No, I don't remember this.
No. I think it was just before I got mine. Something went down and none of the keys would work, be it the web side of it, be it the Bluetooth side of it. None of the keys would work. So you basically had a useless lump of metal until they fixed that service.
Kind of reminds me when like BlackBerry BBM went down or something stupid like that. You're right, and we are becoming more reliant on it. And I did have a BMW and I used Apple Car keys. And you kind of always have that little thought in the back of your mind, am I going to be able to get my car when I get back to it? And I risked it for a few years and it was solid, but you never know, do you? And you're right, this is the thing. Are you in 20 years from now going to be able to drive your 2018 Model 3 Tesla? I don't know what year they came out, but do you know what I mean? Like, will it even work? Or will it literally just be scrap, which would be a complete waste? Whereas, if you buy a regular car, it's pretty much usable.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? That on the first pass of this, you think, if you're going to lose access to the fact that you can't heat it in the morning, that's not such a big deal. But not being able to get into it or not having the authentication to start the engine or turn it on if it's an EV, that's really more of a problem. And you remember how up in arms people were about BMW charging a subscription for heated seats?
Yep.
So if you follow that through to its own conclusion, well, actually, you may have spent, let's face it, EVs aren't cheap, between £60,000 and £80,000 on a high quality vehicle. You pass it off with the massive depreciation that EVs have got now, and then in 7 years, 10 years, 15 years' time, it just doesn't work anymore because those back-end services, not only to start up the de-icer, but fundamentally to get into the blooming thing, don't work. It's a slightly worrying future.
Do you think they're going to last as long as 15 years?
Well, let's face it, there's some Tesla Model S's that are over 15 years old that still work at this point, that have done, ridiculous mileage, 500,000, 600,000 miles. So I think the batteries just about will last.
Yeah, okay, fair. It'll be interesting to see what Tesla do, because they're probably going to be the first company hit with some of this, like where they've got some old tech out there. Unless they've been good and kept their old stuff going, I don't really know how the software stack works in a Tesla.
But you think Hyundai have that, and Kia had that massive problem where drive-by hackers were able to unlock the vehicles, operate the cameras, do all that kind of stuff. So the security might not be great. How hard will it be to put up a rogue web server that actually takes over an unsupported vehicle and gives you access to all these people's cars?
Just get AI on it to find some bit exploits, because there's bound to be exploits in all these cars, because they're invented in a different time, aren't they?
They are, but and again, just to stretch this out a little bit further, somebody has reinvented Command and Conquer. You'll see where I'm going with this in a minute, because there was no back-end web services for it. So if you wanted to play an online game of Command and Conquer, it didn't exist for a while. So that's why somebody open-sourced it and reverse-engineered all the back-end stuff to make the servers work to get the game to talk to each other. Is that where we'll end up with cars? Will mechanics be having to fire up web services or encrypted services to get cars to work in a couple of years?
Will it be mechanics or programmers, or just prompt vibe coding with an AI bot to do it?
Well, I watch mechanics just plug in laptops to ODB ports these days. Of course there's mechanical bits that you got again. As somebody who's just had his timing chain done, I know very well there's mechanical bits on my old car. But my Tesla was an appliance.
Yeah, there's less and less mechanical bits as we go on them.
I just think it's super fascinating, and a well-timed article by Ars Technica that we actually start thinking about this, and it's making me, maybe I don't want a car that's a lot newer. Maybe I don't want another EV for all the advantages that they bring. Maybe I'm happy at around 2018, 2019 and no further forward than that.
That's pretty much where I got to with it. I was quite happy with my 67 plate car I used to have, and part of me always thinks I should have kept it.
Well, my Skoda, I should find some wood to touch, is still going strong, and I think I might do one more leap to the future at some point, but I don't know. Thing is, they are quite appealing, and if you look at the value of some of the second-hand EVs, you can get a Porsche Taycan for just under £20,000, and that is a huge amount of car for what was a £100,000, £110,000 car.
That's a huge amount of car with probably a big bill if it does go wrong.
Well, there's that, and then who knows, in 5 years' time, maybe it won't start because it's gone off you, or the web service.
I wouldn't mind a Taycan, to be honest. If I had an electric car, I'd want one of them.
There's a few nice ones around, isn't there? Anyway, just an interesting thought experiment. Maybe we'll return to this at some point. Because let's face it. Go on.
Who's going to be the first car manufacturer to do this?
Good question. Who'll be the first one to go under? I mean, we've seen...
Not to go under, but to start turning stuff off. And it becomes a bit of a scandal, like BMW doing subscription seats heaters. Who's going to be the first one to start turning stuff off?
I think the EU will have our back on this. You've got to keep making car parts for, what is it, 10 years after the manufacturer they stop making a model or something like that. There are minimums on some of these things.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to see where this is going to go.
Tesla.
I think it will be Tesla that will be the first to start turning EV stuff off.
But if you bought a Fisker, they went out of business real fast, right? I still see the odd Fisker here in the UK. There's not many of them.
Fail fast. That's the mindset, isn't
it? Fail fast, fail forward. Chances are your Fisker may not work for... That's the company, I don't know if you remember this, that had a limited number of fast starts. You only had 500 fast starts or something like that if you were going to push the EV to its absolute limit. $499, $498. Marcus Brownlee did a video on it.
You definitely want to have a go in the press car if you're Marcus Brownlee.
Although he did get caught exceeding the speed limit a little bit himself anyway. So that was that. I'm glad we talked about that. Obviously neither of us have come down other than the fact it's a bad thing. I just wondered if you had any questions about me traveling with Linux rather than taking my Mac away with me. I went away with a framework laptop that was running CachyOS. Any questions for me?
Well, I was away and I just took my iPad, so it's a different world. So I do have some questions. One, did you miss anything from your Mac, or are you reached a position like me where actually you're in a position where you're not tied into your iCloud Because that's probably what I would miss is, right, just everything's all in sync. Did you have any issues like that?
The only thing I was concerned about, and it didn't cause me a problem, was the battery life, because battery life is nowhere near as good as modern Macs. That you will burn through a battery in 3 hours if you're screaming with everything on it. And I didn't have the issue. I managed to travel with it. I was on airplanes with it. I was on trains with it, and I don't think I got below 40% at any point. So, and I was just using it as normal. So, yeah, I might have plugged it in a bit more than I would have the Mac because I was aware of that. But that was my biggest concern. My other thing was, historically they've not been that great at any sort of sleep mode, so I was switching it off more than just shutting the lid and walking away. However, old school, but this time I just shut the lid and walked away, and it was fine. It got its network connection every time. Pretty much everything just worked, and it was a bit of an eye-opener to me that my fears about traveling with not a Mac just went away. I just used it as my computer, and it was reliable. Everything worked. I didn't need to restart anything. Nothing crashed. It was like traveling with a reliable old friend. Frankly, it was good.
So why did you do it?
To see if I could, as much as anything. And
you didn't take your Mac as a backup machine?
I didn't take my Mac as a backup. I had my iPhone, obviously, but I didn't take a Mac. I didn't take an iPad. My pure computing device for over a week while I was away in Europe was a Linux machine.
Fair play. Did anybody notice that you just had a Linux machine? Is it quite normal in your circles?
No, because everybody just assumes it to be Windows. A couple of my colleagues were like, "Why have you got that, Rod? Because where's your nice M5 Mac?" And I said, "No, I'm traveling with this just to see if I can." I think I told you before. I once got spotted on a train with the framework, and somebody went, "Oh my gosh, is that a framework?" And he just wanted to know that it was a framework laptop rather than it being
rather than the OS. He was into the hardware.
Rather than he was into the hardware more than anything else. I did get a couple of Europeans sort of nodding approvingly because I was running Linux, which I quite like.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. So I've never really used Linux with any sort of momentum, and I would be like a massive fish out of water. I think I probably last used it 20 years ago. I would probably need to start building up my comfort first. Before I do that, and I am debating doing it on my gaming PCs as we've discussed, but sadly SSDs are so expensive I don't want to buy a spare SSD right now. But
things have changed.
Yeah, no, I can see why you're doing it. I think it's quite cool, and I was trying to explain to my son, like, it's quite nice trying out a new OS because everything's a bit different and it's nice to play with it and have something that isn't the same old thing that you've been using for the last 20 years, which in our case with macOS is pretty true. Like, if you look at macOS today compared to 20 odd years ago, I know a lot's changed, but it's not that different. I mean, it's a lot quicker, but all the concepts they got right 25 years ago are still here now, really. You know, like you got the traffic lights in the top left corner, you got we did have toolbars, and the two seem to be making a bit of a comeback. You got the dock down the bottom, you got the menu bars at the top. Like, nothing has really fundamentally changed. So I can see the appeal of it.
It was functionally the same, and it's like when I did the Android experiment, a couple of years back. It's, can you live in that ecosystem and not miss things? And it turns out I can. I think that almost everything I want is there. I will say tools like NetBird or Tailscaler, these kind of things, make life an awful lot easier for hitting your own cloud back at home, and that, I think, has been a bit of a game changer for me, for realizing that, when I'm out of the house, I can't connect to X, Y, or Z, like my image server to back up my photographs or whatever, or access this thing. And now I can. And I think that has really given me a mindset shift. Everything I needed to do for work is in a web browser, pretty much. OneDrive, Microsoft Outlook, all that kind of stuff. You can get by on them with no problems. LibreOffice worked very well for me for changing some Excel spreadsheets. I managed to review a paper while I was there using the track changes in LibreOffice, not Word. Worked perfectly well. Saved it back to Word, sent it back to the journal, had no complaints. So that makes me think that, you can just get on and use it like any other computer these days.
I think things are easier because there's way more in the cloud. As long as you've got good browser that's adheres to modern standards. If you've got a NAS like you and I have, and you can dial back into it, he says, that super helps, doesn't it? Because I'm in a similar place to you. I've got a big NAS. I want to be able to access the stuff off of that. So I can see where you're going with it.
Yeah, I think it might be as your own thought experiment one day. I'm not suggesting you podcast with it, Chris, because we have enough issues with that anyway. But maybe just as a you go away yourself for a week and see how you get on with something. It could be a fun challenge for you.
Yeah, I'm not doing it this week. But,
I'm not suggesting you do. We'll have a big on-ramp to that, I think.
Yeah, it'd take me a while. Well, I'd have to go buy some hardware probably, or do something with my MacBook.
Maybe buy some hardware. It's probably the way to go. And I would recommend a ThinkPad. They're really good.
Less tempted to buy anything in the current climate.
Nah, you buy like a 7-year-old one. That's the sweet spot. You spend no more than 200 quid on something.
Yeah, you get your foot in the door, or you get one that works thrown out and you get it completely wiped. Yeah,
exactly. App of the week.
Go on then.
App of the week this week is a website. I've been quite interested in Steam-related things at the moment for my Steam Deck and the Bazite machine that I've fired up for my console until maybe my Valve pre-order becomes a thing that's a reality. It hasn't yet. This is just a really useful little website if you want to know how things are going to work. Initially just on the Steam Deck, but now on SteamOS as well. And it's just quite a useful little resource if you want to see if a particular game or service or something is going to work well on your Steam Deck. You'll get a performance and a content rating for how well it will work on that, and you can go from there. And I just think it's quite a useful little resource.
So if one of us was thinking of turning his gaming PC into Linux and running Steam
Bazite
on that, Bazite with Steam on the top, I could use this to see, is Command & Conquer going to work? Is Civ going to work? Yeah, okay, right, I'll give that a go.
Yeah, Civ will work, I guarantee it, because I was playing it the other day.
I'll probably least bother with Civ because it works on my Mac, but it's more all the other weird games I got in Steam that I want to try out. Okay, I'll take a look.
Yep, check it out. Thing of the week.
So I've gone with the Clicks keyboard, which I'd completely forgotten I'd ordered. I don't think I spent very much money on it. I'm going to say like 40 odd quid, I think it came in at. And what it is it's I'm holding it up to the camera so people can see it. It's a bit wider than your iPhone. It's got the MagSafe ring on the top, and you clamp it on the back of your phone like thus, and then you can pull the keyboard out. You can use it with a Max phone or a regular size phone like I've got here. And you can turn the screen if you want to have it in portrait. And basically it's a Bluetooth keyboard that attaches via MagSafe to your phone, and you can use the battery on it to charge your phone if you want, but you can use a hardware keyboard and have the full screen real estate. And I just thought I'd buy one for a bit of fun, and also I don't have one of those small little batteries, so I thought I'd just try it out. It's nice, it's very nicely made, by the way, but the keys are very small, and so I'm trying to just learn a little bit. I've been at it the day just to see can I make the keys work with my fat fingers. But other than that, it seems quite cool. You compare it to up to 9 devices, which I think is pretty cool, and they've only limited it to 9 because that's how many number buttons there are across the top. So you basically can turn it on, you can push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It seems all right. So yeah, I don't know whether it will stick with me. I don't know. I travel a lot, I send a lot of email, and that I just thought it was worth trying out. It looked well made. So that's my feedback thus far. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? It's one of those gadgets that you think, that'd be quite handy if I had a keyboard. I'd have more real estate in the phone, but the reality of actually using them without all the tech that BlackBerry sort of perfected for fat fingering a keyboard is quite a big deal. I think it's a good idea. They've made it into a power bank as well. That's really quite useful. That'll keep your phone topped up.
And I think it's cool. You compare it like to your Apple TV or your iPad, for example. So I think that's quite neat. So it is just it seems quite a well thought out. It's not just a one-trick pony. I actually spent £60 on mine. It was 50 quid with £10 worth of taxes on top. So I'm going to give it a go. And it's USB-C to charge it, so it's good. And like I said, I don't have a power bank, and I am running the beta of iOS 27. So battery is a little bit of a premium for me at the moment. Yeah, I'm going to give it a go. I'll let you know how we get on.
Interesting, yeah. Follow up with this because I'm always interested in this kind of thing. 76 quid. It's on the edge of something I'd be buying at the moment.
Do you want to see something else that's arrived but I haven't really tried?
Why not? Let's go for it.
So, talking of weird tech you can stick on the back of your phone, I've got one of these. I don't know what the brand is. Think I don't know how you pronounce it. So it's XTEINK. It came at the same time as my Clicks thing, weirdly, but it's like the Clicks thing will attach to the back of your phone, and you can have an e-reader on the back of your phone. You can put your books on it, and again, it's part of me heading towards the bring your own content piece. And I just thought I'd try it out. So I've got it on the Wi-Fi, but I haven't worked out how to get a book onto it yet. So it's got a little micro SD card in the top, and it came with a converter. The only annoying thing with this is it's got like a magnetic charger, which looks like a smart connector on your iPad. I'd rather it be USB-C, but I'm going to give that a go as well.
So I would say, I don't think I've recommended it as an app of the week, but Calibre is what you want, the free the free piece, the open source piece of software that converts books from one thing to another.
Yeah, I may well have used that already.
There you go. There we go. I think we call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us, you can get to Rod on Mastodon. He is G5Maniac at mastodon.scot. I'm also Mastodon, and I'm at _CJP at mastodon.social. You can watch it on YouTube by going to wakefromsleep.com and click on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email, wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.